My brothers and sisters in life, we often think that being constantly available, always saying yes, always being there for everyone, will earn us love, respect, and value. But let me remind you of a simple truth. When you are always present, people begin to take you for granted. Your silence, your absence, your distance, they all have a power. Let them miss you and watch how everything starts to change. Sometimes stepping back is not about pride. It's about preserving your peace. You were not created to be drained by others. You were created to worship, to build, to grow, to serve with sincerity, not to be used and thrown away like you are replaceable. Allah has honored you. Don't lower yourself just to fit into spaces that were never meant for your soul. You see, when you're always available, people assume you have nothing better to do. But the moment you protect your time, the moment you stop valuing your peace, the same people begin to realize your worth. Because silence teaches, distance teaches, absence teaches. And sometimes Allah removes you from certain people, certain places, certain situations, not to punish you, but to elevate you. So let them miss you. Let them feel what it's like not to have access to your goodness. Let them remember the softness in your words, the warmth in your presence, the sincerity in your help. And while they reflect, you grow, you heal, you rise. My brothers and sisters, don't chase those who walk away. Don't beg for attention. Don't shrink yourself to be accepted. Allah never commanded you to beg for love. Your value doesn't come from how many people call your phone or how many times they include you in their plans. Your value is from your connection with your Creator. When He is pleased with you, the rest of the world falls into place, even if they never clap for you. Let them miss you. Step back. Focus on your soul. Fix your connection with Allah. Rebuild your strength. When you come back stronger, wiser, and more focused. They will see the difference. They will feel the shift. And that change, it starts the moment you stop trying to prove yourself to people and start living with purpose. Let them miss you and watch everything change. In today's fast-paced world, we often believe that our constant presence is a sign of love, loyalty, and dedication. We think that by being available to everyone all the time, we will be appreciated, valued, and held in high regard. But the reality is often the opposite. The more you make yourself available, the more people begin to expect it as a given, not as a blessing. Your presence, once a gift, slowly becomes a habit to them, something they feel entitled to. And entitlement never leads to gratitude. When people know you will always answer the phone, always respond to the message, always show up even when you're tired, they stop appreciating the effort behind it. They forget that you too are a human being with emotions, with limits, with your own life. They begin to treat your time, your energy, and even your kindness as something that's not special. It becomes background noise, always there but never noticed. This is the silent danger of constant availability. It chips away at how others see you, and slowly it chips away at how you see yourself. Being always available can make you feel important for a while. It gives a sense of purpose, a feeling that you're needed. But over time, that feeling fades when you realize that people aren't valuing your presence, they're simply used to. And when you need them, when you're the one who's down, tired, or struggling, suddenly the room is quiet. Suddenly, those same people you were always there for are too busy, too distracted, too unavailable. And then it hits you, you weren't being valued, being used. It's important to recognize that your time and energy are forms of wealth. They are not infinite. Just like you wouldn't hand out all your money to those who wouldn't appreciate it, you shouldn't hand out your presence to those who don't value it. There is wisdom in stepping back. There is protection in silence. Sometimes the best way to be seen is to disappear for a while. Not to be arrogant or to hurt others, but to preserve your peace and dignity. People need time to realize the value of what they had. As long as you're always around, they don't stop to think. They don't reflect. But the moment you step back, they begin to notice the gap. The silence makes them reflect. The absence makes them remember. And in that space, your value begins to rise again. Not because you forced it, but because they finally had time to see clearly. Even in relationships, whether it's family, friendship, or love, this principle remains true. When you're constantly giving, constantly showing up, constantly saying yes even when you're exhausted, the balance breaks. Love is replaced with expectation. Respect is replaced with assumption. And worst of all, your presence is taken for granted. You become the one who's just always there, and not the one who is appreciated for being there. But the moment you create a boundary, the moment you say, not today, I need rest, or I can't take this on right now, people begin to reevaluate. Some might get upset. That's because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. But the ones who truly care, the ones who truly see you, they will pause. They will understand. And maybe, just maybe, they will start to appreciate you in a way they never did before. You don't owe everyone your time. You don't have to explain your absence to every person who asks, and you don't need to feel guilty for protecting your peace. When you're constantly available, you not only risk being taken for granted by others, you risk losing sight of yourself. You risk burning out emotionally and spiritually. You risk becoming resentful, not because others are bad, but because you never gave yourself permission to say no. It's a hard lesson to learn, especially for those with kind hearts. But remember, even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would retreat. He would take time away from the noise, from the people, to reflect, to connect with his Creator, to find peace. Constant access is not a sign of love. It's often a path to being undervalued. When you step back, when you say no, when you disappear for a while, people have a chance to see what your presence truly meant. There is something powerful about silence, something transformative about distance, and something deeply revealing about absence. These are not just moments of withdrawal, they are lessons in disguise. When you stop speaking, when you take a step back, when you walk away for a time, people begin to notice things they were blind to before. As long as you're always there, always responding, always present, many won't take the time to reflect on your value. But the moment you are no longer easily accessible, the perspective shifts. People are often blind to blessings they experience regularly. This is a truth seen in all areas of life. The air we breathe, the health we have, the peace in our homes, we don't realize their worth until they're disturbed or taken away. In the same way, when you are always around, your presence becomes normal. It becomes part of the background. It becomes expected. But when you step away, your silence echoes louder than your words ever did. That silence begins to speak, and it says, I am not to be taken for granted. Distance is not always about physical space. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's spiritual. When you put distance between yourself and others, they begin to reflect. They begin to remember. They begin to ask themselves, why did this person stop showing up? In that pause, in that stillness, the truth begins to surface. It may be guilt, it may be regret, or it may be regret, or it may be appreciation. But one thing is certain, your absence forces a response. Silence becomes a mirror, and people are left to face themselves without the distraction of your presence. Many times we feel the need to explain ourselves. We want to justify why we need space, why we are stepping back, why we are no longer as present as we once were. But there is no need. Silence, when used with wisdom, explains everything. It draws a line. It creates room for reflection. It teaches people what your words could never communicate. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop giving so freely, people are left with nothing but their thoughts. And in those thoughts, they begin to see you differently. Sometimes you are not appreciated until your voice is no longer heard in the room. Sometimes your value is not seen until your seat is empty. And sometimes the help you gave, the comfort you provided, the loyalty you offered, it's all taken for granted until you remove it. That is the nature of human beings. We don't reflect deeply until something disrupts our comfort. And your absence, if it is genuine and intentional, is often that disruption. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about making others feel bad or guilty. This is about truth. About allowing the space for truth to rise. When you're always available, people don't have to consider your feelings. They don't have to pause and ask, is this fair? But the moment you're gone, they have no choice but to sit with that question. And sometimes that's the only way real change happens. People grow more in reflection than in noise. They grow more in silence than in arguments. Think of how many times you felt like you were talking but not being heard. You were expressing yourself, explaining your pain, your needs, your disappointments, but it fell on deaf ears. That's because words, when overused, can lose their weight. But silence, it's heavy, it lingers. It stays in the room long after you've walked out. It causes people to rethink everything they dismissed. Even in faith, we see this principle. Allah sometimes removes blessings from people not out of anger, but to wake them up. When something is taken away, hearts begin to remember. When hardship strikes, tongues begin to pray. In absence, we reconnect. The same applies in relationships with others. When you're always available, others forget what it means to truly value your presence. But when you go quiet, when you put distance, they begin to search for the reasons, and that search leads to understanding. Let your silence do what your words could not. Let your distance teach the value of closeness. Let your absence reveal the weight of your presence. When you remove yourself from a space where your worth was not recognized, you don't just leave it empty, you leave behind a lesson. One that speaks without a voice, one that teaches without explanation. People learn through contrast. They see light after darkness, they value health after sickness, and they recognize presence after absence. This is how hearts awaken. This is how change begins. In a world that constantly measures worth by attention, validation, and how many people celebrate you, it's easy to forget where your true value lies. We begin to think that if people don't respond to our messages, if they exclude us from their plans, or if they don't acknowledge our efforts, then maybe we are not enough. But this mindset is dangerous. It ties our self-worth to the fleeting opinions of others. It makes our hearts anxious, always waiting for approval, always fearing rejection. The truth is, your value doesn't come from people, it comes from Allah. When you understand that, everything changes. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop seeking validation from those who may never be able to see your light. You stop shrinking yourself to be accepted by circles that were never meant for you. Instead, you begin to live with dignity. You begin to realize that being unnoticed by people means nothing if you are seen by Allah. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, and carry yourself with a quiet strength that doesn't beg to be acknowledged. People are fickle. Today they praise you, tomorrow they forget you. Today they applaud you, tomorrow they criticize you. Their love is often conditional based on what you can give, how you benefit them, how much you entertain or serve them. But the love of Allah is constant. It is not based on your status, your appearance, or your popularity. It is based on your sincerity, your effort, your humility. And when you realize that, you begin to shift your focus. You start doing things not for attention, but for reward. Not for claps, but for closeness to your Creator. It's not easy. The heart naturally craves appreciation. We all want to be seen, to be loved, to be remembered. But that desire becomes a trap when it overrides your purpose. When you start praying for people's approval more than you pray for Allah's mercy, you've already started losing yourself. Because the moment you make people your standard, you will never feel fulfilled. There will always be someone who doesn't like you, someone who misunderstands you, someone who overlooks you no matter what you do. You will exhaust yourself trying to please everyone and still be left feeling empty. The beauty of Islam is that it reminds you again and again, Allah is enough. He knows your intentions, your sacrifices, your quiet struggles. He sees the nights you cry, the moments you hold back your anger, the kindness you give even when it's not returned. And He never forgets. Even when the world overlooks you, He remembers. Even when people doubt your worth, He elevates you in ways you could never imagine. That's why the believer keeps going. Not because of people's praise, but because of Allah's promise. There's a kind of peace that enters the heart when you stop worrying about what people think. You become lighter. You begin to focus on what really matters. Your character, your prayer, your intentions, your growth. And even in loneliness, you don't feel alone. Because your heart is anchored to something greater than this world. You are not living for likes, compliments, or attention. You are living for the one who created you, who sustains you, who never stops watching over you. Sometimes Allah hides your worth from people to protect you. Because if they knew your true value, they would try to use you, manipulate you, or destroy you out of envy. So He covers you not to punish you, but to preserve you. And when the time is right, He reveals your light to those who deserve to see it. Until then, be content with being unknown, unseen, and uncelebrated. Because it is in those hidden moments that your sincerity is tested, your intentions are purified, and your soul is strengthened. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be seen to be significant. The most beloved acts to Allah are often the quiet ones. The prayer no one sees, the charity done in secret, the forgiveness given without an apology. These are the things that elevate you in ways the world can't measure. And once you understand that, you'll stop chasing people's attention and start chasing Allah's pleasure. You'll start finding joy in being sincere, not in being seen. You'll start measuring success not by popularity, but by peace in your heart. The world may never fully recognize your worth, but the one who created you already has. So live for him, serve for him, grow for him, and let that be enough. There is a certain strength in stepping back, a strength that many people don't talk about because the world often sees silence as weakness, distance as indifference, and solitude as loneliness. But in reality, these moments are where some of the deepest growth happens. When you remove yourself from environments that are draining, from relationships that lack balance, from spaces that ignore your worth, you are not running away, you are healing. You are making room for clarity, reflection, and renewal. You are choosing your soul over noise, your peace over chaos, and your growth over comfort. Too often we get caught in cycles of giving our time, our energy, our emotions to people and places that do not pour anything back into us. We convince ourselves that we are being strong, being kind, being patient. And yes, patience is beautiful. Kindness is a noble trait. But when those virtues come at the cost of your well-being, when you start to lose yourself in the process, that's no longer patience. It's self-neglect. Growth does not happen when you're constantly exhausted. Healing doesn't occur in an environment that keeps hurting you. Taking a step back is not selfish. It is necessary. It is where you begin to listen to your heart again. When you're surrounded by too many voices, too many opinions, too many expectations, you can barely hear your own thoughts. You begin to live on autopilot, doing things because others expect it, saying yes because you fear disappointment, showing up because you don't want to seem weak. But when you pause, when you distance yourself, you begin to reconnect with your own soul. You begin to ask the questions that matter. Who am I? What do I need? What is Allah asking from me? In those quiet spaces, you start to see things differently. You notice patterns. You recognize how much of your energy was spent trying to fix what was never your responsibility. You begin to see the weight you were carrying, the burdens that weren't even yours to bear. And slowly you start putting them down. You start breathing again. You start realigning yourself with what truly matters. You stop chasing people who were never running toward you. You stop justifying yourself to those who never truly tried to understand you. You stop being afraid of losing others, and you start fearing losing yourself. Growth requires space. Just like a seed needs to be buried in the dark before it can bloom, your soul sometimes needs isolation before it can rise. You can't grow if you're constantly surrounded by noise. You can't heal if the wound keeps being touched. So stepping back becomes a way of honoring your journey. It's a way of saying, I need time, I need quiet, I need to be still. Not because I am weak, but because I am rebuilding. And during that time, people will notice the shift. Some will question it, some will be uncomfortable with your silence, your distance, your calm. That's because they were used to the version of you that always said yes, always smiled, always showed up even when you were hurting. When that version disappears, it unsettles them. But let it. Let them feel the absence. Let them wonder. Let them sit with their own reflections. Because what they don't understand is that this version of you, the one who has chosen peace, the one who has chosen healing, is not lost. It is found. When you come back different. You walk with purpose, not pressure. You speak with clarity, not confusion. You give from overflow, not depletion. And people feel that. The same ones who used to overlook your presence now feel the weight of your absence. The same ones who took your kindness lightly now recognize its depth. Because stepping back gave you perspective. It reminded you of your worth. It realigned you with your Creator. Sometimes the most powerful transformation happens in silence. Sometimes the most beautiful elevation begins when you let go. You begin to understand that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every space deserves your energy. Not every person deserves access to your heart. You start protecting your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. You start choosing what feeds your soul, not what pleases others. You start walking away from noise, not because you're giving up, but because you're rising above. This is the change. This is the shift. It begins the moment you say, I will no longer stay in places that drain me. I will no longer offer my light to those who live in shadows. I will step back, I will reflect, and I will return stronger.